Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. And we're carrying on our canter through the Battalion box sets. How do they compare to what they were before the FAQ and errata? Are they worth looking at if you're new either to the game or looking at picking up a new army? Today we're looking at the Warriors of Chaos. We'll start with a quick word on price. So, as with the Empire and Orc ones I've already talked about, we're looking at a box set of £110. In it, what do you get? You get 44 models. So this is quite a small model count compared to the other Battalion box sets that we've already covered. But this isn't anything like as infantry heavy. What do you get? Well, you get 32 Chaos Warriors. They are your infantry component. You get 10 Chaos Knights and you get 2 Chaos Chariots, which can also be built as Gore Beast Chariots. If you bought these models individually, you're looking at 3 kits with a combined cost of £157.50. So you are making a £47.50 saving. So this is again consistent with the Empire and the Orc kits, give or take a couple of models difference in the number that you get across the kits compared to the Battalion. The question is, are these models things that are going to get into your army? Are they worth it? Well, Chaos Warriors, before the FAQ errata, let's face it, a big block of them could be pretty nasty, but it wasn't a top level pick. There were better things that people could get their hands on out of the core section. But you want something durable, right? Something that can stay the course, that can hold objectives, that can hold ground. A big block of infantry is absolutely key to this. You're looking at infantry with a strength and toughness of 4, with heavy armor, giving them a 5-up armor save. You can give them shields for a single point a model, taking them to 14 points a model, and a 4-up save, which becomes a 3-up save when they have their hand weapon and shield option. You've actually got ways of making them even more resilient as well, such as giving them the Mark of Nurgle. This, in the combat phase, forces your opponent to re-roll any natural rolls to hit of a 6. So 1 in 6 hits are being re-rolled. And when you're coming in with weapon skill 5, they're not really going to be hitting you on anything better realistically for rank and file anyway of a 4+. So 1 in 6, they've got another 50-50 chance of making that hit. That seems pretty good. You're also initiative 4. Less useful really when tanking a charge, because let's face it, most people are adding +3 to their initiative, but it's not a terrible thing and gives you maybe a bit of viability against really low initiative stuff or things where you've been able to lower its initiative. Chaos Warriors, I think, also really benefit from the fact that you can change weapons being used during an ongoing melee. So they have access to additional hand weapons, to great weapons, and to halberds. These all offer different advantages. So fighting in that second rank, you're only going to get 1 attack at best from the second part of the fighting rank. So that suggests something like great weapons like halberds. Great weapons does away with that initiative of 4 advantage, which means in the ongoing fight, not on the turn you've been charged, but if you manages to hold on, halberds probably become a little bit your friends because that impacts you up to a strength 5. So you're wounding toughness 3 things on a 2, toughness 4 stuff on a 3. You've got a bit of armor penetration, albeit, of course, with the ensorcelled weapons rule, your hand weapons give you that naturally. So it's touch and go, I think, whether you want the halberds. I think it's just something that gives you options depending on what you're up against and to how likely you want to be able to get through to punish your opponent with those early wounds in second, third, subsequent rounds of combat. I've always thought it's a travesty when you get an army that's called Warriors of Chaos that doesn't include Chaos Warriors. I do think they now look a lot stronger and are definitely something that could play a useful part in an army. Let's look now at the Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights were, they're a core pick, but unfortunately they just failed to cut the mustard in the era of Warhammer the Old World, when it was all about monsters and, let's face it, all about the cavalry. They have improved, so they've now got the counter-charge rule. It gives them a fighting chance if they get charged by other units of knights. They could, of course, because it's Chaos Knights, you could just use them as Chosen Knights as well, which are an upgraded version. Now, I think whatever you go for, whether it be regular knights, whether it be Chosen Knights, Chaos Knights have sadly not really cut the mustard when it comes to all things cavalry, but I do think they still have a place. First charge remains a really useful rule. And whilst everyone's talking about how great blocks of infantry now are because of their static res fighting, their extra fighting rank, etc., you can take a lot of that static res away with first charge. First charge, your first charge of the game, it goes into one of these blocks of infantry. They can't get any rank bonuses. So sure, they're going to have a slightly better save if they've got the parry rule. They're going to be fighting with some extra bodies, but you're pretty tough. You've got decent armor. Hopefully you can still get through that. Don't take too many casualties whilst using your lances, your ensorcelled weapons, dishing out some pain before your opponent gets to strike. Getting that first charge means instead of getting potentially 2 or more rank points, depending on if they've got Horde or not, on top of their banner from their command group, on top of being close order, on top of maybe outnumbering you, so 3 points of static res, as opposed to maybe 5, 6 points of static res, or even more, as is possible with forces like the Empire. That's a lot easier to overcome. And then if you're looking at regular rank and file troops that don't necessarily have the best leadership, Chaos also has the way with some of their spellcasting to bring people's leadership down. You could be forcing infantry backwards with the charge, and in an ideal world, forcing them to break and run, driving them off the objectives that they want to hold on to. I think we are increasingly looking at a combined arms atmosphere when it comes to Warhammer the Old World. It's not just about the monsters and the cavalry anymore. Infantry are playing a part, but a quick moving unit that can get around the flanks, that can disrupt rank bonuses, is going to play a part. So yes, Chaos Knights might not be the best picks. You've still got the might of Chaos Ogres, for example, which have been a top pick consistently for Warhammer the Old World when it comes to the Warriors of Chaos. But I think there is potential for a little bit of play here. Then we come on to the Chaos Chariots. Not sure about these. So Chaos Chariots, they'll lack the Swift Stride rules. They're a little bit slower. Means they're not going to keep up with your knights and be able to support them. You could use them as mounts for your characters, but Chaos now, it's got an even wider availability of options when it comes to mounting its hero level characters, because your Chaos champions, not just the lords, the next level down, the exalted heroes, they can go on a dragon too. So you can get 2-3 dragons into your Chaos army. Sure, they're not taking any ground, but these things are going to hurt, particularly if you can get them into a flank in conjunction with something else. So you can suck out any attempt to challenge out your combat hero on dragon by throwing in, say, a unit of Chaos Knights with a champion in it. So the champion takes the challenge. Your big choppy lord, choppy hero on the big crunchy dragon then smashes into the infantry, ripping them apart. That rather means that I don't see a huge role for Chaos Chariots, bearing in mind that it also putting a character in a Chaos Chariot makes it more difficult to protect them. If they're infantry or cavalry, they can hide around the units that you've got on the table. You're not going to have units of chariots, so it's going to be very difficult to keep them safe from prying artillery, for example. So what do I think overall? Before the FAQ errata, I don't think this was a great box set, and to be honest, I don't really think many of the Battalion box sets were that brilliant. I think in this current environment where we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, we're still experimenting to a certain extent, the meta's not yet stabilized. I actually think there's a lot more here, though, that's going to see some play. I think you're going to use Chaos Warriors a lot more often. I think Chaos Knights have a place. That place needs to be found. Maybe it's that small unit disrupting ranks, supporting other fast-moving elements of your army to do some damage. The Chariots, less so. And that's really, I think, what makes the box set a little bit difficult. How often are you going to use those knights? How often are you going to use those chariots? Because if you take one of those elements away, that's 52 quid worth of model. So your £110 box, suddenly if you're only using 2 of the 3 options, you're using £105 worth of models at recommended retail, and you've paid 110 for them. It takes away the value if you're not going to use everything. So I would think long and hard about, really, are the chariots for you, and are you going to find a place for those Chaos Knights? It's on the cusp overall, I think, as to whether this one is any good or not, and it very much depends on what your personal vision is for the army. As a way to bring everything together, it's fine, but I would not put it out there as one that I would look at and say, this is a brilliant Battalion box set and it's a great way of getting into the army. I think there's just a couple of too many question marks hanging over it. So I hope you have found this video useful. As always, if you have done, please consider a like and subscribe. It's the best way of helping a small channel such as this one. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.